Hey everyone, welcome to my part 2 build guide for Pandora 60%. In this video we're going to be talking about the PCB, how to flash it, its configuration options, stuff like that. Okay, let's start off with this photo right here. Say you've got your build, you unpacked everything, and you pulled out your PCB. If we take a look, this is a hot swap build right here. You can see the little connectors, and this one is a solder build. The layouts are a little different. As you can see, this one has only one spacebar option because it's hot swap, and this one has two. Okay, don't worry about that though. What this explains is that you can build them in different ways. For the solder version, for an example up here, you can build a split backspace, as you can put one switch here and one switch here, or you can put stabilizers and do a single backspace key. That applies to other keys like your enter key, your shifts right here. Look at this. This is for ISO shift. Your spacebar, you have a 10U, a 6.25U, a 7U for Sangan, stuff like that. For the hot swap, again, you're a little more limited. There's only one bottom layout you can do, and things like that. Right here is your caps lock key. You have two right here. One is for step and one is for regular. And these little two plus minus holes here are for your caps lock indicator light. If you decide not to solder an LED here and you put it up here, you can configure this LED later in firmware to be either caps, scroll, or num lock. And here is your reset switch. This is where we're going to be pressing anytime we want to flash it. Or you can always use the ISP header here to enforce flash it, but this is more complicated. This is for people who know what they're doing. Last but not least, we have your two JST connectors here. This is what's going to connect to the USB hub or your daughter board directly, and this is only for the encoder. Okay, so we'll keep this image here just in case, but let's move on. Once you have your PCB, you're going to go to my website, pearlboards.net, click on the firmware tab, and here's where you have a couple of options. You can get a compiled hex file that I have already built for you, or you can grab the directory of QMK files and edit everything yourself and build it. Okay? Regardless of what you do, if you get a compiled hex or you build it yourself, you have to grab the QMK toolbox to flash everything onto your PCB. You can go to this link here and grab it, or you can go to QMK in GitHub, and you can see that toolbox is where we're going to go. You're going to scroll down, you're going to go to download, and then you can grab any version. If you go to the latest beta, you can see that this is the Mac download version. This is for Windows, and this is the one I would recommend, the install. So install that, and then open it up once you've installed it. QMK toolbox. It's at this point that you would grab your hex file, whether it's built or downloaded. Click on the reset button on your PCB. There we go, and you are ready to flash. Now, if it's a VIA file, when you flash it, you can use VIA with it. Here we go. This is VIA. Can I use VIA.com? Download it. We see that the flash was successful. So then you would open up VIA, and it would recognize your Pandora if you have internet connection. Here it is. Here are the default layers and everything that's built into this VIA file that I have already provided. You can play with the lighting, etc., etc. Now, depending on your build and your configuration, you would have to, if you're going to use like split backspace, you would use both of these. But if you're only going to use one key, the center one, as shown in this photo right here, that one right here, you can see that the traces are actually connected to the one all the way on the right. So you would use this key for the single backspace. And regardless, once you build your PCB, you can play with it live and you can test it and see which one is being pressed. You know, if you click backspace and it actually does delete, then you know that this is the one you have to change for that single backspace key. Give me 1 second. Okay, there we go. So if you do not want to use VIA for whatever reason, you can grab the latest QMK firmware. You can just download this whole repository if you know what you're doing. And inside of keyboards, you would find Pandora, and you can edit it there and build it. And I'll show you how to do that really quick. I have my latest here. This is my copy of QMK's firmware. And inside of keyboards, I have my subdirectory Pearlboards. And here I have Pandora. Now these are the latest projects that I've been working on. I have not pushed this out to the actual repository. So if we go on their website that has the latest, and you go to Pearlboards, you will see that only Pandora is in here because I have not pushed that stuff out yet. So that's in the making. So you go to Pandora, and this is the stuff that you would essentially grab from my website, and you can drag and drop that in, and you can start editing things. And I'll show you what that looks like. Here we go. These are the files for Pandora. We are pretty much looking at this right here. In this rules.mk file, you can change things if you want. I mean, I wouldn't recommend doing anything here, but you can. You know, this is your keyboard, whatever you want to do goes. In the configuration file, this is where you can hack up the PCB. If you don't want this here, let me draw it out for you. This indicator connected to these as well. If you wanted to turn on the LED on numlock or scroll lock, you would replace this with that instead. Debounce is for key chatter. You can set that to 0 if you don't want any debounce, which is built into the firmware. And then you can mess with your LEDs here, your RGB. You can reverse the encoder or set the resolution to be higher or lower. This means on every turn how many increments it does. 1 is the lowest you can go. And then finally, you see this key maps directory, which is going to be here. This is your default configuration for non-VIA, and this is your VIA configuration. So let's pretend we're editing the VIA configuration. This is the default key map that you can change any key to. And then later on, if you want to, you can also edit it again in VIA. So we can see here, this is M0, or sorry, momentarily toggle your first layer, like right there. FN, for example. Here's for your encoder, volume up, volume down. You can change this to be any key. Play pause. You can, for example, change this to be mute if you want to. Say you change something, you hit save. You're going to open up a Linux shell here in this directory, top level. And then you can just do something like make Pearlboards Pandora. That would build both the VIA and non-VIA builds. But if you want to single it out to be VIA, you can just do this. If this successfully builds, it's going to create a .hex file here like this that you saw we just built recently. And at that point, you would open this up. Oh, it built it. Okay. You would open it up in here. Hit the reset switch again. Flash it. And now your encoder is going to mute on press. There we go. You can't see it because the encoder hasn't been added here. VIA doesn't support that yet. But that's pretty much how you would do it. And you don't have to use VIA again. You can just flash the normal QMK version. But VIA makes it very convenient to be able to edit everything live and test every key, you know. So, excuse me. So, let me see. Is there anything else I'm missing here? I think I've covered everything, guys. It's pretty simple, you know. Just build it correctly. Test every single switch before soldering. Hot swap, you might have to reflow some of the sockets as well if you push down too hard on them and they come out. But for the most part, I think the biggest help would be knowing which key to put down here. Some are 1.5, some are 1.25. If you're building a normal ANSI layout, it would be 125, 125, 125. A spacebar would be 6.25. And then again, 1.25, 1.25, etc., etc. If you're building something like Sangan layout, it would be 1.5U, 1, 1.5, and the 7U spacebar. And then you would not use this key at all, and it would just be 1.5, 1, 1.5. If that is confusing to you guys, please go on my Discord channel and ask when you're building your Pandora. I want to make sure you know exactly what is going on and you build it the best way that you can and to your favorite layout. And if some people ask, why does the hot swap build not have as many options as a solder? It's because the hot swap sockets are kind of large and bulky. And there are some hacks to make it fit in one area. Like you can take one socket and put it on the top. But I did not do that when I first built this. I wanted a clean hot swap PCB. So this is what you got. And yeah, I'll be working on the full build guide for Pandora on my website, so make sure you come here if you need any help. And if there's a part 3 video, I will work on that as well, just to make sure I have not missed anything. But there you have it, guys. I think this should cover everything, and good luck.